So here's your presentation on reported speech ready for advanced. So the first thing we talked about were the changes. So some words and features of grammar used in direct speech may have to be changed in reported speech. So for example, we have tense changes, present tenses change to the past, past tenses change to the past perfect with some examples. For example, I'm having a great time, said Paul. Paul said that he was having a great time. I've never ridden a horse, said Claire. Claire said she had never ridden a horse. We were trying to phone you, she said. She said they had been trying to phone us. So I think these are the typical changes, the verb tenses. Then we come on to the modal verbs. So modals change in the following way. Will changes to would, must changes to had to, may changes to might, can changes to could. Now remember, would, might, could, should, and ought to do not change. And must doesn't change when it's used for deduction. So cambia cuando es obligación, pero no cuando es deduction. ¿Ok? ¿Recordáis? Estará lloviendo, o estarán en casa. Tienen que estar en casa, Esta idea. So ahí no cambia el must, ¿vale? Now, examples of modal verbs. Well, it must be done by tomorrow, she said. She told me it had to be done. Obligation, it must change, by the following day. I won't go out, he said. He said he wouldn't go out. It must be raining, she said. This is deduction, so no lo vamos a cambiar. She said it must be raining. Now remember, must only changes to have to for obligation, like in the first example, Other changes. Pronouns and certain words indicating time and a place may have to change when we use reported speech. So for example, I saw you here yesterday, said Alan. Alan said he had seen me there the day before. And if you look opposite, you have a list of changes of time and place. So take a moment to have a look. But again, I'm sure these changes are familiar to you. Now, number 3, tense changes are not necessary if the statement being reported is still true. Let's look at the example. I intend to retire next year, he said. He told me he intends to retire next year, so that's still true, so we don't change it. We also don't change it if the reporting verb is in the present or the present perfect. We are going to get married. They have announced that they are going to get married. I never tell lies. She says she never tells lies. Now, when questions are reported, we do the following things. So auxiliary verbs do, does, and did are not used, so they disappear. The word order is the same as for statements because we're not making a question anymore. Yes, no questions, the ones that begin with the auxiliary, are reported with if or whether, but I think that's the same in Spanish. And question marks are not used. For example, where's Paul? He asked where Paul was. Where Paul was. Can you see how we've changed the order of the words there? Did you enjoy the film? She asked if I had enjoyed the film. We introduce if in the yes, no questions, but can you see did has disappeared. Now we're going to look at really what would be kind of considered C1, C2, which is the different verb patterns. So let's have a look. Several patterns can be used in reported speech. Some reporting verbs can be used with more than one verb pattern. For example, ask. So he asked to leave. Well, we consider that verb plus 2 plus infinitive. He asked them to leave would be considered verb plus object plus 2 plus infinitive. And finally, he asked that they should leave would be considered verb plus that plus a clause. Now let's have a look at group number 1. And in this group, we're talking about verb plus that plus a clause. And we're talking about verbs like, but not exclusively, add, admit, announce, assure, claim, complain, concede, conclude, confirm, emphasize, estimate, explain, mention, point out, predict, reassure, remark, remind, repeat, say, state, stress, tell, and warn. Now there's a note we must remember here. Verbs like assure, reassure, remind, and tell are followed by an object before the clause. We have an example. Let's have a look. So critics predicted that the film would be a success, but my daughter reminded me, there's my object, reminded me that I had promised to take her to the zoo on her birthday. Now the second group is verb plus that, plus somebody should do something, or verb plus that plus something should happen. Let's have a look at these verbs. We've got advise, agree, ask, demand, insist, propose, recommend, request, and suggest. Now, for example, they demanded that he should resign. Now, when we use the should there, it's more formal. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean advice, but it's just more formal, no? So they demanded that he resign. Okay, and we can again remove that and we end up with they demanded he resign. We suggested he should apply for the job. Again, with the should, it's more formal. We suggested that he apply for the job, or even we suggested he apply for the job. I agree that you should tell her the truth. So far, so good? Okay. Group number 3, verb plus do plus infinitive. Agree, ask, claim, demand, offer, promise, refuse, and threaten. Okay, let's look at some examples. He claimed to be an expert on ghosts. She agreed to help me move house. They promised to tell us the truth. She refused to come to my birthday party. He demanded to be given a promotion. No? Verb plus do plus infinitive. Verb plus object plus do plus infinitive. Let's look at these verbs. We've got advise, ask, beg, convince, encourage, forbid, instruct, invite, order, persuade, recommend, remind, tell, urge, and warn. Now, let's look at the examples again. She urged him, there's my object, not to get involved. I advised him to do more exercise. They warned me not to go to that part of town, and the police officer ordered me to get out of the car. Now, object plus do plus infinitive. Verb plus gerund or verb plus ing. Admit, advise, deny, recommend, regret, suggest. He denied taking or having taken the money. I recommend getting your hair cut before your job interview. The doctor advised doing more exercise. She regretted not telling or not having told her friend the truth. No problem, verb plus ing. Group number 6 is verb plus preposition plus gerund. So here we introduce a preposition. Let's see. Advise, argue, protest, warn, against. Apologize, blame, forgive, praise, tell off, thank, for. Discourage or dissuade, from. Accuse, speak of. Congratulate, insist, on. Admit, confess, consent, object, to. Now we have to be careful with this last group because this to is a preposition. Okay, so it's going to be followed by ing. Be very careful with that group, okay? Then we have some examples. Let's see. She admitted to feeling, there's the ing, rather nervous. He confessed to committing the crime. He told me off for singing. I blamed him for breaking the window. They thanked me for being so patient. I insisted on his or him wearing a suit. No, I insisted on his wearing a suit. I insisted on him wearing a suit. Both are correct. She congratulated me on passing my driving test. He advised me against taking part in the marathon because I wasn't very fit. They accused him of cheating in his exam, and I dissuaded him from doing a parachute jump. Okay? Now we're nearly there. Number 7. Passive reporting verbs. Well, some verbs can be used in the passive after it. This structure can be used if the speaker does not wish to take responsibility for a statement or is reporting the views of others. So typical verbs in this group would be announce, believe, claim, confirm, estimate, rumor, suggest, or think. For example, it is thought that she may have left the country. It has been suggested that the minister took bribes. Now, we saw this in Unit 6 with another possible structure. Do you remember? Well, let's look opposite and we'll see. So we have impersonal passive. If the predicate of the passive sentence is a verb transitive like believe, think, find, say, report, consider, understand, acknowledge, expect, tell, or know, some more examples there, then you can change the active sentence into the passive in 2 ways. Look at the examples. So, letter A. People say that he is handsome. Now, this is the present. Now, it is said that he is handsome, or he is said to be handsome. Okay, letter B. They knew he had an idea. Now, this is in the past, so this is going to affect especially the second sentence. Now, it was known that he had an idea. He was known to have had an idea. Now, we've talked about that a little bit previously. Okay, so let's finish up now with a little meme for you. And of course, if you misuse the passive voice, a bad time is going to be had by you. So that's the end. Thank you for listening and good luck with your passives in the reporting speech.